What's up YouTube, this is LDS Reliance. This video is going to go over, in my opinion, the top 7 mistakes you can make when you're building a custom PC. Now there's a lot of mistakes that you can make when you're building a PC, so I'm not going to go over the really obvious ones. Instead, I'm going to focus on the ones that are going to make your computer run better and cost less. The first mistake is buying way too big of a power supply. I've built about 200 custom PCs in my career, and I used to do this when I first started out too. The fact is 99% of custom PCs do not need a power supply over about 800 watt. And unless you're going to be running a high-end graphics card, you don't even need that much. You're probably better in the range of 400 to 500 watts. My PC right now has a high-end Core i7 processor and a GTX 1080 GPU, and it still only uses about 223 watts when it's fully loaded, such as you see in this picture when I was mining for Ethereum. And yes, there are multiple rails inside the PSU, so it's not that simple. However, if you get too big of a power supply, it's going to be less efficient and it's going to cost you more electricity in the long run to run your PC. It's also going to have a higher price tag than a more modest PSU. Number 2 is getting the wrong RAM. And I'm not talking about getting DDR2 instead of DDR3. That would be a very rookie mistake. I'm referring to getting the wrong size of sticks of RAM or the wrong voltage of RAM. If your memory requires 1.8 volts and your motherboard only supplies 1.5, that RAM isn't going to work. Likewise, if your motherboard supports 16 gigabytes of total RAM and you get one stick of 16 gigabytes, that's probably not going to work. Always check the motherboard specifications for what RAM is supported and what sizes and what voltage before ordering. Number 3 is forgetting the I/O shield, and I know we've all done that at least once. I know I certainly did when I first started. I didn't even know what they were for. But if you don't put the I/O shield in place on the computer case before you put the motherboard and everything else in, you're going to have to disassemble the whole thing to mount it up later. But the reason I included that on this list of mistakes is because it actually helps your PC run better. It helps to make your computer case a little bit more airtight so that air flows through the case properly for better cooling. It also helps to prevent little critters and bugs from getting into your computer and possibly short-circuiting something. Number 4 is getting the airflow wrong through your computer case. There's definitely some science to this. You can't just add as many computer fans as your case can support and call it good. You always want fresh, cool air coming in from the front and the bottom of the case and leaving through the back and the top of the case. So pay attention to the direction of airflow when you're mounting your case fans. If you get the flow wrong, even if you have a whole bunch of fans, it's not going to cool as well as it should. Those fans are just going to fight each other and cause a bunch of turbulence. Number 5 is using too much thermal paste. Most CPU coolers already come with thermal paste installed, but some people like to scrape that off and use their own. If you do, make sure that you use the right amount, which is roughly equivalent to 2 grains of rice. And don't spread it around. The CPU cooler will do that when you clamp it down. If you use too much and it gets all over the motherboard, it actually conducts electricity and it can short your board. And that stuff's pretty expensive, so you don't want to waste a lot of it. Number 6 is not allowing enough space for your GPU. Higher end video cards are very long and they don't fit in some computer cases. If you look closely at the specifications, a lot of case manufacturers will put in the maximum length. But not only that, check to make sure that no other components are going to get in the way of cooling your graphics card. I've even had situations where the video card entirely blocked the SATA or USB headers on the motherboard. And last but not least is buying a factory overclocked graphics card. Most high-end graphics cards and even some of the middle tier ones will offer a special edition overclocked unit. They charge a premium for these cards and they do get a little bit better scores on benchmark tests. But not all of them are worth the extra cost. Do some research into that edition of the card and make sure that there are thermal improvements and cooling improvements to the card and not just the overclocking. Overclocking is pretty easy to do yourself nowadays and there isn't as much risk in it anymore, so that really isn't worth paying extra for. The thing that would be worth the extra price would be if they improve the cooling capacity of the card, because there may be a limit to the overclocking you can do on a stock card. Just don't rush out and buy that special super clocked version just because it must be better. Thanks for watching this video. Please support my channel by hitting subscribe and hitting the thumbs up button.